Hello, my name is Catherine McGahey Doherty, and I'm here today to talk to you about the professional resource Reading A to Z. This is a paid subscription, so you usually have to get it through your district or through your school. I bought my own subscription because I use it so much, but I would talk to your principal before purchasing your own. So just so you know, Reading A to Z is a supplemental resource where it has leveled reading material for your students, and it has supplemental resources for different reading series. So I'll be talking about that today. One of the first things that I want to talk about that I really like within Reading A to Z is that you can pick your state standards, and it shows you how their different books relate back to your state standards. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to pick Texas, and I'm going to hit go, and it's going to populate the first through eighth grade state standards in Texas, the ELA standards. Now they're still working on the kindergarten standards, and they should be here by 2020. But it's going to populate the standards, and it is going to show you how, if you're working on teaching a particular standard, how it relates to the material that they have on this website and how you can teach it. So again, one of the things that I was taught whenever I was a teacher, they say work smarter, not harder. So don't go out of your way to create your own material. It is readily available on the web. You just have to know where to look. So for instance, this shows grade 1 TEKS 1.1a, and the TEKS says, listen actively, ask relevant questions to clarify information, and answer questions using multi-word responses. So materials correlated to this standard, it'll show you all the books that help teach this standard, okay? And it goes all the way from books to different literature circles. So this, literature circles are something you do pretty much in fourth grade and on, but it shows you how you can do it within, the early grades to the high up grades. So I think that's really cool, especially if you have a really advanced first grader, you might be able to pull higher level books for them. So that's the first thing that I want to talk about. What I also want to talk about is reading series. So you can click on here, you can talk about the reading series. So whenever I taught, when I taught third grade, we were giving Reading Street to 2013. So that is just an example that I'm going to pull up for you. But as you can see, it has all these different reading series listed up here. So I'm going to show you how it's going to pull up one of the units. And then you can go through and you can pick a comprehension skill. I know we don't teach through a lot of reading series nowadays. We're kind of moving away from that. But I found that when you're trying to teach a particular skill such as character setting or theme, and you're really struggling and your students really need in-depth help, it's great to go to a reading series, see how they're teaching that particular skill and present it to your students, because sometimes your students need just to be shown it in a different way. So this has a great resource. It has leveled or multi-leveled resources, activity sheets, graphic organizers, concept books, things like that. That you can use with your students. So you might use it in guided reading, you might use it in whole group. It's just up to you and how you would use it. So I wanted to show that to you guys. So the next thing that I'm going to touch on are their books. One of the things that drew me to Reading A to Z were their leveled books. Lots of times whenever I was trying to develop guided reading lessons for my students, I would run out of leveled books available at my school. And so I would go through all the leveled books, and then I'd be like, wait, we still need practice at this level. What do I use? So I found Reading A to Z. One of the things that I think is great about Reading A to Z, you can filter books based on what you want. Do you want fiction? Do you want nonfiction? Do you want them with literature circle journals? So if you're working in fourth grade and above, you can do literature circles. Do you want a reader theater script? I love doing reader theater with my students and printing them out and letting them go do that at one of their workstations. Do you want them to have a writer's response? Do you want a leveled book lesson or a guided reading lesson? One of the things that I loved is that if you click on these, they have pre-made like leveled book lessons, or it's like guided reading lessons. So all of these books you can download and you can print them out to like do at your guided reading tables. And then they have ready-made guided reading lessons. So I'm not saying that you have to teach particularly like explicitly from this, but you can adapt. So again, work smarter, not harder. Take what you need from this and make it your own. But it's a great place to start. It also has worksheets, and again, not all worksheets are bad. I hate the notion of like worksheets are bad. No, it's how you use the worksheets. So I might take these, and I think this is like a great like main idea, handout. I might laminate it or put it in a sheet protector, give my students expo markers, and take them to the guided reading table and use this. This might also be useful if you're trying to get students to write out sentences. You can cut this apart, laminate it, and have them write out sentences. And then this right here, again, you're doing word work, and so they're spelling out their high frequency words. Okay? So it's all in how you use it. I also like how some of these have grammar and mechanics. You can also do discussion cards. So if you have those students that are a little bit higher level thinking, you can do discussion cards with them. So it's all in what you want to do. What I also love is that within their books, they have all different types of series. So it's not just pre-made level books. They have classic series. So they have like Alice in Wonderland. So they have real literature. We're not talking about just leveled text. We're talking about real literature that is broken apart that you can use with your students. They have alphabet books. They have sound symbol books. They have decodable books, which is great, especially with those early readers. They have high frequency word books. They have vocabulary and idiom books, which is really useful with your ELA students, not ELA, ELL students, when you're trying to teach them idioms. They have nursery rhyme books and things like that. I always love to print these out and send these home with my students, especially if you work in a Title I school. Your students don't have access to a lot of books. You print these out and you can create their little library at home. They have graphic and comic books. So you have those really reluctant readers. Here you go. You have a bunch of social studies lessons about, you can talk about Harriet Tubman, Anne Frank, all of these great social studies topics that we cover. They're made into graphic books. You also have comic books and you have humorous books. So those reluctant readers love to read those, okay? If you go to the Teacher's Corner, you can also look at books by skill chart. So if you're trying to find a particular skill, and if you're not looking at the TEK and you're just looking at a skill, you can scroll down to comprehension. You can pick books based on different skills that your students are struggling with. So this was great. This was a great resource. Another thing that they have is a level correlation chart. So if you're one of those teachers that you might do DRA or something like that, you can click on it and it'll show you the correlation of DRA to the reading A to Z level, which is really, really helpful. Assessing a student's level. How do we assess the student's level? Well, that's running records, but it talks to you about how do you give a running record. I know we're all teachers. I know we're all pretty proficient in giving running records, but it's a great, how do you take a running record? How do you mark a running record? So how do you mark a running record? How do you score and analyze a running record? We could all use a refresher on that, right? Or even if you have a new teacher, a teacher that, is maybe moving grade levels or things like that. This is a great refresher. So I am going to go back to about running records. So if you go here, it talks about how to give running records. Do you know your student's level? Go to the benchmark passages that they have. So these are benchmark passages that you can use to figure out where your student is at. They also have, alphabet letter naming assessments, phonological awareness assessments, phonics assessments, high frequency word assessments, fluency time reading, retelling rubrics. So it's all of these are available to you. One of the things that I would say, how do you use this with teachers? Like if teachers were coming by and showing you guys all about reading A to Z and all it's great, uses, but how would I present it to teachers? I present it as a supplement, you know. Reading A to Z, it is a supplement. It should never override what you're doing with your district, what your district tells you to do. I know that in different districts you have your assessments and your way that you give tests. Don't deviate from that, but use this as an in-between check-in. I know that whenever I gave running records, my district had particular books that they wanted us to use to give the benchmark running record scores. So I would use reading A to Z benchmark passages in between so that I could always ensure that when I was testing my students for the district assessment, I could give cold readings and not readings that they had done before. I also made sure that, I told my teachers, this is a great resource if you are working with, Reading Street. Use it as a resource. Don't use it as the Bible. It's not the end-all be-all. Use the pre-made running record, sheets, work, smarter, not harder. Go ahead and use them to your advantage. Use the retelling rubric. Use the comprehension questions at the end to your advantage. Print out the books for Reader's Theater. And, use the correlation chart if you need. I also think it's really useful. There's a filing cabinet option in here that you can use. So let's say that you want to go through and you want to use, you want to sort popular books, or you say like you want to create a new folder where you have third grade main idea. So you can put all the books that target third grade reading level main idea in here. And so it's a great way to collaborate and share. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my overview on Reading A to Z. I think it's a great resource. I think teachers should use it to work smarter, not harder, and they should use it as a supplement in their classroom. Thank you.